made art and politics the same. It is difficult. Rappers are getting a lot of trouble. When rap music first came out, it was the black radio stations that wouldn't play it. It's the black radio stations that shunned their own children away, that told them, we don't want to hear this type of music. We don't want to play this. So now in New York, Hot 97 they call it, white-owned station is where hip-hop lives. That's what they said, where hip-hop lives. I got a brother named Davey D, a friend of mine who's a DJ in California, a big DJ in LA. He says he gets slapped all the time when he try to play different types of positive rap music because the producers in the radio station constantly tell him, this is not what black people want to hear. This is a white guy. They constantly tell him that he's somebody else. You're not really a black person because you act a certain way, because you're not acting like those cats act on the video, so this is not going to sell. When Juvenile came out with his first single, right? You know that song, I know some young people in here know, Yeah, the older folks looking at me like that boy talking French up there. But on the flip side, there was a song that he wanted to put out that was not typical of what you would hear from his group. But that's not what they played. The DJs played the other side, that became popular, and he ran with that. That's out of his mouth. And he ran with that. That's what sold, so that's what they're going to do. If the degradation of ourselves and of our women, if that's what's going to sell, then they push that. This whole idea of this gangster mentality, if that's what's going to sell, then they're going to push that. There are a couple of people who are fighting through all of this to try to maintain some type of sanity and some type of voice. And parents, I implore you to listen to the music that your children are listening to. I'm not telling you to go out there and you have to go to the club and dance to the music. Just look at the CD sometimes. Throw the tape in when they're in school or whenever. Listen to what they're listening to so you can understand what it is that they're talking about. The type of ideas that they've being put in their heads and the things that they're thinking, so you can have an intelligent conversation with your children about their lives and their future, so you won't get a strange phone call one day. Yeah. So you won't get a crazy phone call about your child being involved in something, about your nephew being involved in something, or about your, one of your relatives or your neighbors being involved in something that you knew nothing about. It's surprising to you, or you have to go to the coroner's office and identify. Wow. This is real. Yes, it is. Yeah. I teach every day. I teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade now, and I see young kids 6th and 7th grade come in with gang colors on, gang signs, talking about things they have no idea, no clue about, grasping for power and looking for answers in a world that's turned a deaf ear to them, who feel like the only way they can express themselves is to go out here and shoot somebody or fight somebody or do the things that they do. Who feel like we just gave up on a whole generation of folks. We let the Rockefeller drug laws give our kids the 3 strikes and you're in. We let Paul Kimber Smith do 20-something years. Sister went to Hampton University, do 20-something, almost 20-something years until she got that part for being affiliated, not even selling drugs or anything, just her boyfriend. Her boyfriend was convicted of a crime, and the prosecutor said they knew that she didn't have anything to do with the drug activity. And they gave the girl 20-something years anyway. She would have still been in jail if she wouldn't
right.
Oh, we have to educate out what's going on. Because with we moving further and further to the right. With the music comes the politics, comes the laws, comes the legislation that we know very little about. And our kids, they get into this frenzy. They listening to this music. They getting in these things in their head. They don't know what's up against them.
That's right.
That's our job. You walked around that corner, you know it's a man around the corner waiting with a baseball bat. And if you don't tell your child that, hey, when you turn that corner, make sure you duck or go the other way, then you're just as responsible for their fate as they are.
That's right.
You've been there, you know it. You saw it, you felt it. You've been through the struggle. I don't have to tell you about the difficulties of struggle, about how terrible times can be. The thing is, we have to tell that to our children in a very real and non-fictitious way. The good times and the bad times. The right things and the wrong things. The things that went well and the things that didn't go so well. How to organize. It's not a blueprint. Brother was telling me in the car, it's not a blueprint, is that right? It's not a blueprint. It's no, remedy, no straight directions to follow, but we shouldn't have to play it by ear. I never experienced white supremacy. I grew up in Newark. I went to all black schools my entire life. The black mayor, black police chief, black board of education, black council and black firemen. Oh yeah. High school name, Malcolm X Shabazz High School. George Washington Carver Elementary School.
All right.
Harriet Tubman Elementary School. Right, so we got Martin Luther King Boulevard. People dying right on Martin Luther King Boulevard.
Yeah.
There's a Martin Luther King Boulevard in every city in America where we live at. There's a Martin Luther King Way, a Martin Luther King Drive, or a Martin Luther King Boulevard. And it's probably the worst street in the town. And half the people in the town might not even know a thing about Martin Luther King. That's the schools they go to. That's where I grew up. I grew up there. Went to Howard University. When I came back, the Negroes who had won office in 1970 under the People's Choice ticket, a brother by the name of Donald Tucker, who was a councilman there, they took away the people's right to speak. A black man who throws these annual Kwanzaa events. Things get really crazy for us today. You understand what we're dealing with as kids. It gets really crazy. He took away the people's right to speak. I went down there to talk to the brother about why he should reinstate the people's right to speak. They arrested us. They arrested us, 9 of us. One of us was 15 years old. Put us in a precinct for 8 hours. We went down there and sung songs. We sung I Woke Up This Morning with my mind stayed on breathing. That's what we said. We thought that maybe they could relate to that. They got pictures in their office of them marching with King and all kinds of, all these movies. You go down there and they tell you all these stories about how they sat in, they did this, they will lock you up. Right to speak, and it's no longer about you, it's about them.
Right.
It's about them. There's no way that Newark should be in the condition that it's in. No way. Small contractors still have to get affirmative action contracts. Is that the most bizarre thing that you've ever heard of?
Yeah.
I can't even imagine having a conversation at the debates, the council debates. I wouldn't even talk to the get affirmative action contracts when we live in a city that's predominantly black in the first place? You know, I feel like we locked up in the supermarket and we starving to death. Right. You know, the children at university, high school, they're supposed to be the smartest school in the city, marched out their school. They marched out their school for what? Black studies. Can you imagine? They marched out for black studies, and the leadership was expelled from the school. After a fight, they was reinstated. But that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. And then that tells us where we are in the movement.
Yeah, yeah.
What we have grown accustomed to.
Yeah.
What we allow these Negroes to do because they know how to give us five.
Make it blind.
They know how to do the handshake. Yeah. They know how to wear the right dress. What we allow these Negroes to do, we gotta be careful that we pick the right one. You gotta be careful.
Yeah.
Make sure you pick the right one. See, our problem is we don't have enough ego. We always say we got too much ego. I don't believe that. Sometimes I don't think we have enough. Because we always vote and support people that's less intelligent than us. We more intelligent than them. What are we following these Negroes, these crazy people for? You mean we fought all this fight, bust over our head? March got our vote taken from us? Get rid of these racist folks in here to get this from you? Now? You mean our children, we don't have to worry about white cops shooting our kids in the street now? We got black cops who will do it for them. They'll do it for them. They take the job. Sure. Because it's a mentality, an ideology that they have embraced, the feeling that they are inferior. And so we believe that these people who are less intelligent than us can guide us out of something that we know how to guide ourselves out of. If we just put our muscle in our brain and our muscle in our arm to it, we can guide ourselves out of any condition, any problem that we have. Who knows what's wrong with the schools but the parents? More than the parents and the teachers and the kids who go to the schools. Who know what's wrong with the communities better than the people who live in the communities?
Yes.
Who know how to fix the problem on your block, except for the people who live on your block?
Yeah. Right.
Who know how to raise a community from the dead, except a person who was born and raised and lived and went through this stuff here in this city with you? Who have marched with you and organized with you and been in your organizations with you? How you gonna look at somebody else who you don't even know? You don't know their mama, you don't know their grandmama, you ain't marched with them, you can't identify nobody in their family, not one thing they've done for your community. You have to start voting not just on the cat because he looked nice. He got a nice suit. He shaves good. He go to my church. My pastor said he was a good man.
All right.
No, that's what happens. He gave us a chicken dinner. No, you gotta look at people's credentials. Where you are on these questions of the movement. It's important. For us, we're gonna be fighting the people we put in office. We be fighting to get them out of there. So as quick as they get in, we be trying to get rid of them. We be organizing to get people to vote for them, then 4 years later, we organize and get people to unvote for them. That's what happens. And then we get so crazy, we get somebody we want, but nobody's perfect. And we know we have to struggle with everybody. Everybody's going to have to struggle with it. You got to struggle with your own family.
Yes.
You got to struggle with your brother, your mama, everybody got to struggle. This ain't no easy thing. I struggle with my brother every day. We struggle all the time. Man, you can't do that. I mean, I'm going to get rid of him and get another brother. You understand what I'm saying? You got to struggle with that. You got to struggle with everybody. Some people don't got the right line. You have to struggle with them. But you have to have somebody that you know you can struggle with.
Yes.
Somebody you know you can struggle with. You can't give up people. You can't. People gave up Dinkins in New York. They was mad at Dinkins. They gave up Dinkins. suffer got them because they got the worst thing they could ever dream of. Giuliani jumped on them so terribly and horribly. Got rid of the vendors, locked up homeless people. Went to Penn State, locked homeless people up, took the vendors out of harm, won't let people speak on the steps of City Hall. Oh, this man is really crazy. People shooting down people in cold blood in New York. He sided with the police. He take juvenile people's records and read them as adults on public and TV. Oh, he just what they asked for. That's because black folks was a little upset with Dinkins. They thought that they wouldn't have to fight no more because Dinkins was in office. They didn't know they had to go down there and struggle with Dinkins too. But you got to struggle with Dinkins and maybe you want to get a little bit better or make him get better, but you can't give him up for Giuliani.
That's right.
We got a lot of things to learn.
Yeah.
We think that sometimes we finish learning because we out of school. I didn't start learning until I left school. You know? As soon as I got back to Newark, that's when my education began. I thought I was smart when I left Howard. I got to Newark, I thought I was the dumbest cat around. I didn't know a thing. All kind of people been there for years, never went to school. They know so much more than I ever would know. So much more experience and information they had. I didn't have. I started learning when I got back to Newark. When I became a teacher, the children taught me every day. They teach me every day. Every day I learn something new. They keep me abreast. See, I know those rap songs. They keep me hip, keep me clear. And one thing about children, they don't pull no punches. They tell you straight.
You're right.
You know, Mr. Baraka, that's wrong. You don't know what you're talking about right there. You know, and I have to get into it with them. I learned a lot organizing in the community, doing Black History class. The organization, we do Black History class every Sunday in our community because how else the kids going to know anything about their culture unless we teach them? Then we mad at them because they don't know anything, but we haven't taught them anything.
Right.
Angry that they out here doing what they don't have to, but nobody doing what they don't supposed to do, but nobody told them what they are supposed to do. They don't have those. SNCC is not, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee is not here. Congress of Racial Equality is not here. Congress of African People, SCLC, Revolutionary Action Movement, the Black Panther Party, the Young Lords Party. All those organizations was grabbing these kids up, putting them involved, getting them to march, protest, giving them information. Those are the only organizations we have in these communities these days, the Bloods and the Crips.
Yeah.
That's an organization.
Yeah.
That's Vice Lords. That's an organization. Yeah. Black Gangster Disciples. They organize, it's an organization. And you know what? Those kids really want you to educate them. I've seen some of the toughest ones by themselves, begging for information. Last week, I was at the Essex County Youth House in Newark, talking to kids. Most attentive, most well-mannered. I said, man, I probably could teach these kids better than I can teach kids in public school. Because they was there because they didn't have to be there. They there because they was there, they wanted to be there. The speaker was coming in, they came to hear him. About 30, 40 kids in there. And they jail orange. 13, 14-year-old kids who missing 8th and 9th grade. And by the time they get out, won't have a decent education. And like Malcolm said, poor people live in poor neighborhoods. And if you live in a poor neighborhood, you get a poor education. You get a poor education, you have a poor paying job. And if you got a poor paying job, you live in a poor neighborhood. A vicious cycle.
Yeah.
And that's the vicious cycle you see them on when I was talking to them. But these kids were most attentive. They understood clearly where they was headed. And they just needed somebody to come take the time and tell them that they could do something right. They just want power. story about a young boy who's 17 years old named Jonathan Jackson.
There it is. There it is.
Because they wanted to be Corleone and Gambino. That, you know, that's what they, Gambino and Mobley Army and all kinds of people. I told them about Jonathan Jackson and George Jackson.
Blood in my eyes.
So they can have somebody to look up to other than Scarface. I told them about young cats who was organizing all the time. Young Fred Hampton. Young Bobby Hutton. Said you want some power, you want to look up to some soldiers, check out Bobby Hutton.
Yes, yes.
It's a sharp young man, fearless and courageous. Somebody you can read and look up to and be like. You don't have to be Noriega. N-O-R-E, you don't have to be Noriega. You want to be a tough guy, be Nat Turner.
All right. Yeah.
A tough guy and a minister. How about that? I'm going to end on this poem called American Poetry. Are there any American poets in here? I want to hear an American poem. Something American, a South Carolina slave shouter, Alabama backwoods church shack call in response. I want to hear an American poem. An American poem about sharecroppers on the side of the road or families in cardboard boxes, not about your majestic land or how beautiful ugly can be. I want to hear an American poem. Some American poetry, something about ghettos or battalions of Germans and Jews or black folks, about projects and lead poison, about poverty and children in jail. I want to hear a poem about a picket line, a Joe Hill legend, a struggle for an 8-hour day. Hey you, where are all the American poems about Harlem numbers runners and barbershop conversations about colored faces on colored TVs? I want to hear an American poem. As American as jazz or a South Bronx burner brandished on an abandoned building, a scratch tune, a breakbeat, a backspin, a beatbox, a rap song in Congo Square, black boys beating on buckets on Broad Street in Newark. As American as the Zulu Nation and the Latin Kings, I want to hear an American poem. An American poem about a dead girl on Chadwick Avenue with a bullet in her neck from a colored cop doing his job, ordered by fascism and crack cocaine. You know, something made in the USA. Something American and Afro-Cuban, New Yorican, Latin tinge, sprawling out of wide open tenement windows in the middle of winter on the verge of East Harlem or North Newark. Poems of brown colonies of Albizu being tortured for breathing Taino blood, screaming African tongues, and dialoguing in Spanish for being him Puerto Rican self, and worst of all, loving it. My God, where is all the American poetry? I don't want to hear about your fantasies and your statues. There's no more American poetry, just death marches and stoic laughter, black folks being funny. No more American poets. No, I won't boost your morale or play your songs or make you feel comfortable or build your ego or play my part. I just want to hear an American poem, something native like the Trail of Tears, Wounded Knee or Smallpox and Blankets. An American poem with American images like Welcome Back Kotter or The White Shadow or different strokes about white gods who God helpless darkies on the road to light. Yeah, American. Something that represents us, a colored rainbow, a big bright fist, an uncorrected sentence, improper English as American as COINTELPRO, as Peekskill, New York, Robeson singing out the back of a truck, as American as Nina Simone playing at the Blue Note with Baldwin next to her, and with Baldwin next to us, fine. On a piano stool in a Miriam Amina Baraka in the audience, air filled with smoke and cognac, capture that moment, write something about that, an American masterpiece, an American poem, something strictly American like Red Summer or Strange Fruit in a Pomerades. Hey you, yeah, you know you Mr. Poet, yeah, you something American, USA, American, USA, American, USA, American, USA as American as the KKK. A poem about Emmett Till could do. Tallahatchie River, church bombings and child murders, about Alabama red dirt and boycotts in Montgomery, about families migrating north with dignity and shotguns. I want to hear a poem about a beautiful black boy, can't you see him? A beautiful black boy colored into the night, his eyes, the stars, his hands are will. A beautiful black boy in the middle of a project, playing checkers with glass and stone, who beat buckets as drums and plays the horn in his sleep. I want to hear a poem, I want to hear a poem about a beautiful black boy, can't you see him? Can't you see him, a beautiful black boy? I want to hear a poem about a beautiful brown girl, an incredibly beautiful brown girl with an aged mahogany smile and flower petals for her lips, a beautiful brown girl with a poem in her eyes, and a gun in her hand, sitting in a puddle of tears and Clinton Women's Facility, in the Garden State, in the land of the free, you know, something American, something that represents me.
Baraka. Baraka. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to
is the issues that we think are important, not the issues that are important to the community. When I was running for mayor in 1994, I was only 24 years old. I went to the projects, and one of the major concerns that they had in the project that I went to, Seth Boyd, was to get washing machines. I thought, Howard University, that was a minuscule problem. And if these people can't get washing machines, my God, why are we in here talking about washing machines? Then the sister took me to the laundry room while we was after the thing. We had gotten out of there about 9:30. And after I finished talking with people when it was over, it had to be about 10:30, almost 11. There was one washing machine in the laundry room, and it was shaking. There was a line of people waiting to wash their clothes. Some people had been in that line since we had started the actual lecture or you know, question and answer thing in the project. And that was the only washing room that they had in the project for everybody to use to wash their clothes. Immediately, I felt stupid. Because one, I thought that the problem was minuscule, but it was so great to those folks there. You're talking about older women who was waiting in that line, who went upstairs, made dinner, came back down, had their kids watching dinner, all kind of stuff, to stand in that line so they won't lose their spot so they can wash their clothes. This is real. Secondly, I figured, well, why are we living in these conditions in this city with all of these people who claim to love us, love, you know, their people in charge, and this type of stuff is happening? Where they won't even give these people give us decent services so that we can just wash our clothes. I mean, working people don't want much. They might want a decent education for their children, a good playground to play in, a safe community. And I think sometimes we have our own events instead of go to the events that the people put on. Like, I think that you should participate in all of the PTA meetings that occur. If there's any block association meetings, we need to go to the block association meetings, the local NAACP meetings, all the little the devices that we have, the excuses that we have to keep ourselves divided, to not go to these things, we should get rid of. We have to go to everybody's function. Whether they're talking about save the park, whether they're talking about save the environment, whether they're talking about education, not incarceration, that's definitely what we need to be dealing with. Whether they're talking about better education for their kids, whether they're talking about a washing machine in their community room, in their project, because all of those are ways to organize people into a greater cause.
I just want to say, all praise is due to the Creator, who has blessed us to see our generation. It is a blessing to know that the work and the struggle has not been in vain. Knew your mother and your father when they were younger than you, and to see that the seed that it was planted has grown and blossomed. I just say all praise. Blessed are we who have lived to see the generations moving on, continuing in the struggle. Bless you.
You know where Raleigh is?
Yes.
I grew up in Raleigh. I left Raleigh in 1936. We didn't have segregated housing. I grew up next door to a black family. We didn't have segregated schools. I had black kids sitting next to me from kindergarten up through high school when I left Raleigh. What I'd like to know is what the hell happened in those days and what we have in Norton now? Because I was away from it. I don't know what happened. But there was a sea change somewhere along the line.
Well, one of it is white flight. A lot of people left. They got up and left. In school, they used to argue. We used to have these debates about all black schools and all this other stuff. We used to have debates about integration, what integration has done. I went to this thing in West Virginia. They had 40 years after Brown versus Board of Education, and I spoke, and they wanted me to give my ideas on have we arrived after the Brown versus Board of Education 40 years, a couple of years ago. And I said America, in the main, is segregated. It has always been segregated. Most of us will never even see or know anybody outside of our own culture on a real personal level. There are very few people. Newark is highly segregated. Most inner cities in America are segregated because the nation has segregated them. Even after Brown versus Board of Education, I couldn't tell anybody about after Brown v. Board because I grew up in Newark, and Newark is segregated. Newark, there is part of Newark where black folks live. There's a part of Newark where the Italians live, with a few that we have left. There's a part of Newark where Portuguese community live. Then there's another part where it's mixed of blacks and Latinos. The city is segregated. Then there's areas around the city that have deposits of black folks. Then you go further out, then you don't see any black people. Maybe one or two. Most people in this country, not only segregated socially, but segregated politically, segregated economically. If you looked at the national election and you saw them fighting about the presidency, there was no integration in that fight. That was a completely segregated fight. White men fighting other white men about the power that white men were going to get. There was no black lawyers there. There wasn't even any women involved except that woman down in Florida. Yeah. Who they say was Jeb Bush's mistress or something. I don't want to gossip. But the country is very segregated. It is. If you drive, I'm sure Missouri is segregated as well. If you drive, it's a funny thing when you grow up. It's like my mother and father, they used to say you couldn't go across a certain street in Newark. You couldn't go to a certain school, and they desegregated those schools. What desegregation meant for schools in Newark, like a school called like Baraka, or that's Malcolm X Shabazz now, that's called Southside, used to be predominantly white schools. What desegregation meant is that the school became all black, eventually. It meant that it was desegregated for the first couple of years, like Little Rock in Arkansas, where it first jumped off. It was mixed for a couple of years, then after that, folks left and the school became predominantly black. That's how it happened. Those areas in Newark, the more we moved in, the more white people left, the more predominantly black it became, the more the economic structure of that city, the people began to leave, the businesses began to leave. And this is what we had. You could drive down Newark and you could see the city change right before your eyes. Just on one street, you could see it change. You see projects, graffiti, crack bottles, abandoned buildings, vacant lots, drives, you see businesses, lawns, nice homes, kids in playgrounds, beautiful schools, and you ain't leave the state, or the city for that matter.
Brother Baraka, I just wanted to share an experience that you brought up regarding joining organizations. Back in 1992, I got involved with an organization that was about to close. And this organization involved elderly services. This company transported the elderly and disabled throughout the city of St. Louis. And it was founded by a black woman by the name of Helen J. Bourne back in 1976. Well, here in 1992, the company was about to close, and a group of seniors came to me and pulled me from the side of my church to get involved and help them save the company. They pulled another young brother from the other side of town that I had never met before and brought us both together and said, please save this company. And that was in 1992. In 1999, he and I had taken the company from 15 vehicles to over 40 vehicles. We were providing more service throughout the city of St. Louis for the elderly and disabled that they have never seen before. We had taken the company to a level of providing in-home services for the elderly and disabled inside their homes. We brought more wheelchairs back into the city of St. Louis vehicles to provide services for the elderly. This company had the same type of services being provided in other areas throughout the states. But what we did was we went and challenged the system. We went after the state saying, hey, the city deserves this type of service. So what happened, to make a long story short, that goes along with some of the things that you've said. Back in 1999, in February of 1999, our office was surrounded by the FBI. And me and this brother today stand accused of providing a hoax to provide services for the elderly and disabled in the city of St. Louis. There's a strong possibility over the next several months that you will all hear a story that will relate to myself and another brother that have provided services for elderly that we're possibly be getting 10 years in prison and our voting rights taken away from us. But it goes to share along with some of the things that you have said that I can relate to. But we welcome the challenge. We look forward to it, and we're looking forward to our day in court. But I just wanted to bring that up to you, that the things that you're saying, the struggles that we're faced with every day, it's a going concern, and it is out there before us.
We have one more. This is our final comment or question.
First of all, I'm like Mama Francis, the lady who spoke earlier. As I was introduced to you tonight, I know and love your father and mother. And it's wonderful to see you with the energy and the power that you speak, that certainly the fruit did not fall far from the tree. And I want to respond. I had said to you I have an article here that was in the paper last week, and for those of you who saw the Get Out, because I want to respond to the point you made about young people and also about culture, because the young man that's with me is a young person who was a strong contemporary of Nelly. And I'm not saying anything against Nelly, but this brother, when they were rapping together, he changed his direction. And today, he's very committed to being one of those people that you're talking about. So, yeah. He won a lot of rap contests and back when they were coming up together, and he changed his direction. And of course, as being a cultural worker for 30 years, I'm standing behind people like that. So I want to give you this copy of the article. You should have seen it in Get Out, and you're going to hear about him in the community.
What's his name?
Fresh Voice is his rap name. And for those of you who want to come out and see him tonight, you'll have some flyers for you.
Thank you. Brother Baraka, we also had some requests from people who wanted to know where they can buy the CD. Yeah.
Hopefully I'll get them on the internet. Again, I had them there, but that's a self-employed business that'll purchase those CDs and get them out. I'm in the process of getting some now. I already ordered some. So
This website, razbaraka.com. You can go there and order the CD off of that site.
Ladies and gentlemen, Raz Baraka, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Just wanted to say, as our theme is Black Youth Reclaim Your Legacy, and how the brother Ras Baraka was saying that it's up to us to teach our youth, because it's them that they're looking up to us for the education. They're starving for it. And it's up to us to teach them. So I just wanted to take a minute for like all of the youth to just stand up. All of the youth just stand up. All of the youth stand up. I want all of the youth to look at your elders and all of the elders to look at these youth. Because it's their responsibility, it's your responsibility to teach these youth that are in this room and the ones that you see outside of this room. And for all of our totos or the youth to look at these elders to let you know, so that you can let them know that it is their responsibility to teach you. And you have to request for them to teach you. You make sure they teach you and share their knowledge with you.
I used to live in Newark, New Jersey, so Brother Baraka and I know exactly what he's speaking of. 1959, I was in New Jersey, and I was living in Newark. And now it's time for the #1 heartbeat of the Organization for Black Struggle, the heartbeat of America. It's time for whom?
Mrs. Jamala Rogers.
With the state of OBS, Jamala Rogers, she deserves a stand. All she's done for this organization and for the city of St. Louis and for the country at large, Jamala Rogers.
I don't know where the music came from. I'm not going to be long because a number of you all have been with us through the year, and so you sort of know what we've been involved in, and hopefully some of the things that we are going to continue to be involved in. The selection of Ras Baraka for this year's anniversary was no accident. It was a very calculated kind of thing, because we really wanted to somebody that embodied the theme, education, not incarceration, Black Youth Reclaim Your Legacy. And for those of us who know Amina and Amiri Baraka, as Mama Francis said, it really is empowering and very humbling to see that out of Newark comes somebody like a Ras Baraka. And so that just lets me know, as bad as conditions are in Newark, and as bad as conditions are here in St. Louis, that our potential for creating the Ras Barakas of the world is real, and he's living proof of that. But also, we wanted the youth who were going to be here to see what we expect them to become. And I know it's pretty confusing for them when they get pointed to role models in our community, both locally and nationally. I mean, we present them with these role models and we say, here's who you should be looking up to. And these people have no principles, no values, no guts. All they have is self-interest. Somebody was telling me yesterday they heard on the radio that a teacher called in a radio talk show and said that she had taken Jesse Jackson's picture down off the wall in her classroom because she did no longer see him as a role model. And yeah, it's a time for forgiveness, but it's also always a time for making informed decisions and using our best judgment, and not using the power that we have at our hand to misuse and misguide. There have been a number of victories in St. Louis that we should be proud of, that OBS was a part of. One of them was the Civilian Review Board that is now a state law. It came with, that's right, you all worked for it. It came along with the racial profiling bill, which we were also struggling to make sure that it happened. But just as sure as I'm standing here, y'all, if we don't keep the pressure on, we won't have a racial profiling bill, or at least it won't mean anything because nobody's enforcing it, nobody's turning in data. As of March, all of these districts across the state are supposed to turn in data. We're gonna see. And I sit on that task force. I don't know why they put me on it, but they did. And so anything that is going awry, I'm gonna be sure to tell y'all that it is, and I expect y'all to act accordingly. All right? Because I know y'all have my back. So the point is, we have to not only make the laws, elect the folks, but we have to stay on the case. We also had another victory in St. Louis. We had a living wage law that passed. And we worked for like about 5 years to get that. But then guess what happened, y'all? Tell Baraka what happened with our living wage bill. The first thing that the mayor decided he wanted to do is to make downtown exempt from the living wage. So fighting to get something is just one part of the fight. You got to fight to maintain it. There are a number of issues that we plan to be involved in the upcoming year. One of them is to capture our 20-year history. And I can tell you we've been celebrating since the last anniversary celebration where we celebrated the 20th anniversary. But we've also been doing a lot of reflection because for many of us, we see a rollback of not only civil rights, but our human rights. And so we have to organize, and we have to look for allies in places that we may not have looked before. Because what's getting ready to come down for us, y'all, it doesn't look very pretty. And so the more we are organized, the better our successes will be. In the summer action, many of you all know Percy Green had their reunion, and it was significant because that is one of the premier organizations, in fact, one of our predecessor organizations that we base a lot of our protest strategy on. But it would have been good to have a lot of the young people there because a lot of, I think, the history of action is going to be lost. And many people who have jobs at Southwestern Bell, at the Union Electric, at some of these other places don't understand how they got that job. It's people like Percy Green and the members of Action that made that happen. That's right. So it goes back to some of the things where Baraka was saying, in order to know where you're going, you have to know where you've been, and you have to respect those folks who made the sacrifice. One of the landmark cases around Percy Green is Green versus McDonnell Douglas. And many people in St. Louis never even heard of that. But Lee Goodman, as an attorney, can tell you that that is one of the cases that you learn, one of the first cases you learn about in law school. The attorney that argued that case before the Supreme Court, we lost recently, but I'd like to recognize his widow, Marilyn Gilden, who's here. Green versus McDonnell Douglas didn't just go to the Missouri Supreme Court, it went to the highest court in the land. And so we have that particular law to help set some standards for discrimination cases. We have a lot to do, y'all. Recently, OBS received a grant And part of what we want to do with that grant is to organize the documents and materials of the first 20 years so that we can pass those on to the next generation. The other thing that we plan to do is really begin to have some training workshops, not just for OBS, but for the movement, because OBS can't be as strong as the movement around it. And so we need to begin having some study sessions. We need to begin to have some training sessions about how to organize. There are many people who want to be doing something but don't know how to organize. And we have to provide the forums for them to do that. So be looking for that in the future. The other thing that I want to leave you with, because there is so much death and destruction around, and because we are always compelled by our young people, because as long as OBS has been around, the youth group has been around, and sometimes those little people may get, under our hair, but it really is them that inspire us to keep going, because we know if we stop our vigilance, there are many, many pitfalls waiting for them to follow. And we have already, as Brad said, we've written off a whole generation. And not just a whole generation, but I think we've almost written off 2 generations. And we seem to be pretty complacent about that. And that is the thing that just makes us even more intense in our desire to keep that struggle going. The death and destruction that our children know is unhealthy, it is unwise, and it has nothing to do with our forward motion for freedom. So we want to take this opportunity to launch the Education, Not Incarceration, Fight the Police State campaign, which is part of the Black Radical Congress's campaign. Because unless we all recognize that not just young people are being criminalized, but a whole race of black folks and brown folks have been criminalized. I don't have to go out here wearing baggy pants for the police to vamp on me. I can go out here with a dress down and a brother next to me with a suit and tie. But this is the thing that we cannot change, y'all. And so you can act snooty, you can move somewhere, you can get another kind of job, but you can't change this. So you might as well join in the struggle with us. I want to end by saying that Baraka represents the generation of his parents, and we look at all the adults in a community as a village raising our children. We are actually on the 2nd generation of our youth. A lot of these kids' parents were in the youth group. And so it's important to us to keep that continuum and that legacy going so that they grow up to be healthy, strong, and get back to the movement. That's the important thing, that we just don't want them growing up, but they have to be a part of the movement. Until we free, y'all, we got to have all hands on deck, and we ain't free. So we want to ask you all to be with us in the fights against Ashcroft. I can't believe we coughed him up out of Missouri. He's going to end up as the Attorney General? No, we can't have that. So, but you got to hear from everybody in this room, and we got to hear from everybody in Missouri, because we know best. We've lived him, we've experienced him. But we got to be ready for the bushes. See, that's also an intergenerational thing, y'all. George and George W., they're going to be a team. You think they not? That's why Cheney's in there too. He's part of it. So they are getting ready to make plans for us, y'all. We got to be organized for the counterattack. And the only way we're going to do that is to be organized, and more organized. And if you haven't joined OBS, there's an opportunity for you to do that at a reduced rate, because we got Campaign Karibu going on all of February. But if you don't join OBS, join some other group, because we're going to need all the forces. Get ready for a mayoral campaign. We already lost the senatorial district. It's too much confusion around here, y'all. The people that are in this room, I'm not saying it because y'all here, y'all are some of the leading fighters and warriors that are going to have to go out here and wage this struggle. So I want to leave you in peace. I know I don't sound very peaceful right now, but looking at the young people and knowing what they have ahead of them in St. Louis just makes me want to fight harder and harder and stronger. And I thank you all for being here. Good evening.